Should I move it in here? Here? Oh. Oh, okay. All right. It is Wednesday, September 11th, 2019. The time is 6 p.m., and I would like to call the Vineyard City Council to order. Nate Riley will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and give our invocation. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this opportunity tonight to gather as City Council and as citizens of our community. We're grateful for our many blessings. We're grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy in our country and within our city. We're grateful for those who have gone before us and who have prepared a way for us to enjoy what we do today. We ask a blessing to be upon those who protect us, our police officers and firefighters, those who are our first responders, those who are serving in the military. And we pray that that will bless them and keep them safe where possible. We're grateful for the opportunities of growth that we have before us, and we pray that that will help us to make good choices and decisions, help us to have wisdom in our council work. We're grateful for the opportunity to serve together, and we say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. As a reminder, well, I guess it's new. We are actually live streaming this meeting. As a reminder, I want you to make sure your cell phones have been silenced. This is our pilot, so we're kind of testing to see if our audio and our visual are working together. And once we figure out the technicalities with this, we'll be posting it and announcing it. We'll go ahead and move into open session. This is a time for anyone in the audience that would like to address the council and bring to our attention things that are not on the agenda. If you would like to make a comment, please come to the podium, state your name and where you're from.
Jim Welsh in the Parkside neighborhood. So we were made aware 2 weeks ago that in a council meeting, one of our neighbors came in and had made a comment that I wanted to make sure was clear and on the record about regarding the hill and the Grove City Park. And that was that I think that the words that were used last city council meeting was that the Welshes and the Tattons, as well as the Cameron families, were frustrated with the hill in the back. And I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that the Welshes, for one, I can't speak for the Tattons, are not at all offended or upset by the hill in the back. In fact, as I was trying to explain before to some of the city staff members, I do believe that it would be wise for the city to take the proposed changes that are going to be that are being considered or are underway, that they post those for public comment before action is actually taken, so that way we can come to a good compromise between what the community has become used to and has come to love versus what is proven, and then also taking into consideration what's proven for the city. We understand that it is kind of problematic to kind of mow. I get to watch that every week, and I love seeing those guys out there, and they do a great job. But at the same time, I think that there's an opportunity for the city and for the community to come together on this, save some money, and then also figure out what's best for the community.
Thank you. Would our Public Works, do you have a current comment for this, or should I have you guys meet after the meeting? Okay, you guys can meet after the meeting and talk about this. Thank you for your comment. We will look into that. Are there any other public comments before I move out of open session? And I did want to address your comment. Thank you for clarifying that. It was, the decision, like you said, was not in response to the comment. It had been priorly decided. So when you talk about that with our Public Works, they'll explain more of that. All right, I will close the open session and we'll move into mayor and council reports, and we'll start with Tice. Nate, did you have anything before? No? Okay, Tice.
As usual, I attended the Utah Lake Commission meeting, which for some bizarre reason is 7 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, lots of information this time. I'm sure you've noticed in the past month and a half, the helicopter has been flying along and spraying the Phragmites, and the swamp master that has been going through and crushing and mowing it. Because of the high water, it's actually expedited this process because that machine can float. So they have mowed the whole lake down to Mud Flats, which is south of Provo. And now they're going to truck the Salt Masters pass there and start the south end of the lake. They will finish the whole lake this year when they had budgeted for only half the lake. So this is great news. They're also going to spray the whole lake. So by the end of this fiscal year for the Lake Commission, we will have totally treated the Phragmites. Now, this is a treatment that will be done every year for 3 years. And supposedly that will take care of a majority of the issues. Then they'll start with the outliers and do it another way. So that's all good news. Walkera Way has received final approval.
I have a question for you on that. With Walkera Way having a pilot program with the cows eating the Phragmites, how is this for additional growth, and how does the spray affect that area?
They left one segment for the first trial area.
Okay.
So it's set to go. They're installing fences now to keep the cattle, and the state is watching this with great anticipation, hoping that it works like it did up north. That's why we're starting it down here. The next thing of probably prominent public interest is the algae blooms. We had the chief water quality scientist for the state speak to us, and he was rather emphatic, so I'll just say it. You can put it where you think it works. This man said that the warnings that have been issued in the press are totally fallacious and inappropriate. That the particles of algae within the lake, in 95% of the lake, is 1 part per billion, which is 1/10 of the infestation that would cause health problems. He said the warnings are standard. He says they're standard if the lake had no algae or if it has the algae it has now. Don't drink the water. Wash a fish if you catch the fish, and gut the fish if you're going to eat the fish. Those are standard practical requirements, not in any way linked with the level of algae bloom in the lake. There are 2 places in the lake that do have mid-level blooms. One of them was Saratoga Springs, and the other was down south of Provo. But the whole lake is not infested with algae. He also noted that 90% of the lakes in the state have algae blooms. That's just part of life. I would just express my experience having been stationed in Florida for a few years. They have algae that's like 3 inches thick on top of water. So it's not a major issue that the news probably portrays it, if you will. You don't need to ski on scum, if you want to look at it that way. Water quality. The water in that lake presently is 2 feet above compromise. We have stayed very high all year long. They are thrilled because that means next year, especially for the irrigation companies, they have plenty of water and we don't have a problem. The feeder lakes above us are also full, so we've had a great water year. The depth of the lake right now is at 9 feet in general. That's way above last year. Last year we were down to under 5 in that lake. So we've had a fabulous year. They awarded contracts. We voted for 3 contracts to 3 companies, Delta, Carter's, and DQR, which have been approved for their methods of attacking algae blooms. They're going to try it in 3 different places in the lake, and if they work, then we'll go to the next level of awarding contracts for upkeep of the lake. Just as a side note, the Lake Commission, along with the City of Lehigh, has acquired the rights for 5 miles of trail on the north side of the lake, which will come close to connecting with Linden, and we're close to connecting with Linden. So within a year or 2, we'll have a trail that goes from here almost to Saratoga Springs, which is a great deal. So there you go.
Thank you so much. John.
I wanted to, Jake, by chance, do you know the email I sent you on the harvest? Is that going to be on the website? It already is? Excellent. So I just wanted to let the citizens know that there is a Orem Harvest Preparedness Festival Monday, September 30th from 4 o'clock to about 8 p.m. It's at the Orem Community Hospital for everyone. And it's an opportunity to learn a little bit more about preparedness. And as a kind of a side note, there is an app that I will be
looking to kind of promote throughout the city here very shortly that has to do with keeping citizens apprised of problems, disasters, situations, things to, if something from an emergency standpoint, if we needed to shelter in place, this app would be a way for us to communicate to you shelter in place, or you need to get moving, or those kind of things. And that's going to be something we'll be coming out with here very shortly from a kind of an emergency preparedness standpoint.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Okay. A lot of things to talk about just to try to, I hope I can remember to update you on everything. So today I went to the UTA Advisory Council and I got a guarantee from the trustees that the bond for 2020 is going to take care of the double tracking issue that has to deal with our front runner. We should see the funding this November. If the grant from the federal government does not come in on the 12th of November, as I had told you about the last few times, then this bond will take its place and we'll be able to move forward on the timeline. The great news about that, and Jake can probably tell you more, is with the environmental that they're doing currently on the double track, is that they didn't find Eutrussus ladyflowers, which was part of it's a protected flower that could have delayed the project, and they didn't find any in the study this summer. So we're right on track. So that's exciting. I will still be meeting with Representative Schultz this Friday to try to confirm that guarantee with our representatives. So hopefully that goes really well. But he seems very excited about the bond being used appropriately. Let's see. I was able to, I did go interview for the Utah League of Cities and Towns Board, and I was not, after being nominated, and I was able to get a position. So I think that's going to be great for our city. And Ty still sits on the legislative side, and Jake actually goes as well. So if there's anything that we want to be talking about legislatively, for instance, in our financial discussion, we talked about changing things maybe on the RDA to our taxing. We need to start bringing those things together because I have to bring a lot of those ideas forward next week in my meetings, but it's going to start being that way for Tyson Jake as well. And if you guys ever want to attend those meetings, please let me know and I'll make sure that we rotate out. Let's see. We hired Catherine Newman. She's the new executive assistant. And so if you guys have any questions regarding your calendar or any things that you need help scheduling, remember to reach out to her. She's fantastic. She's been doing a really great job and learning all of the systems. And Jake can tell you more internally, but I know just working with me and scheduling some things, it's been really fantastic. The lieutenant governor is coming in his official capacity on October 11th to do a tour of the city. He will be coming to tour the town center and the UVU site, and we'll have a few reps from UVU there. And then he'll be coming in speaking to the citizens and also answering any questions they might have about local things. So that's something that would be good for the youth council to get involved in. Other than that, I'll turn the time over to Jake McCarg, our city manager.
Yeah, we've had a lot of meetings. I'm really excited that Mayor was put on the board for the league. I think that's going to be great. It's going to help continue to project our city out there and get us before representative and let us legislators that we've had a hard time getting in front of. So I think that's really, really exciting news. Catherine's been great. We're excited to have her on. She's a transplant from New York, so she just recently moved her family from just outside of Manhattan, and she has been a great addition to the staff, so we're excited to have her. You guys have a budget report on your consent or on the Dropbox, so if you have any questions about where the city is budget-wise, you'll see on the report that all of the revenues are... It's a little misleading because it says we're 25% of the way through the year. That won't happen until the end of the month, and a lot of the revenues come in at the end of this month. So a lot of the revenues are between 15 and 19% right now. But we're trending above on all of our revenue accounts, and we are below on all of the expenditures. So we're the budget report's good. We like the way things are going, and if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, great. Oh, can you give a quick update, unless Don's going to do it, about UDOT, your meeting with UDOT?
Yeah, I had a good meeting with UDOT this week, and we went over all of the projects that we're working on. We talked about the train station. We talked about the double tracking. Like Julie mentioned, they are finishing up the environmental study right now, and they did not find the flower they were worried about. Dawn wasn't surprised. But that was good news. We're on track for them to let the contract this spring and hopefully start construction early spring. So we also talked about the FRA grant that we got for the rail spur removal, where we're at on that process. We're working through FRA right now to decide which environmental route we have to go down. And so we should hear back soon from them. They had some questions for us, and we sent them answers to their questions last week. So working through the environmental process, and we should see some traction on that project as well. We talked briefly about the Center Street overpass. They were excited to hear that project was moving forward. And they're getting involved in the water tank project. From a high level, we do need a discharge line into a storm drain system, and so there's a potential that we would be discharging into one of their lines. So we're working with them on that as well. So that's an update from the meeting.
Thank you. Don?
I just have two things. I wanted to bring up the fact that if you haven't noticed, the construction of the overpass is underway. We got our first lift on the west side, and we'll see that changing drastically over the next few months. And so I'm excited about that, because 7 years of work is finally starting to pay off, and we're actually seeing something coming out of the ground. So I'm excited about that. We also wanted to keep you up to date on the town center construction and what we're working on right now. There's a project in front of you tonight for a water master plan. As we started discussing with Flagship, the town center area development, we realized that with the amount of population they're projecting in the town center area, that we needed to verify our water piping sizes and pressures. And so we have requested some funding to be able to do that modeling, to verify those numbers before we finish the design for the Center Street. Before the Main Street extension through the town center area. So that's the project you have in front of you tonight to get approved. Any questions for me?
Any questions? No? Thank you, Don. We will move to Christy Welsh, our Planning Commission Chair. She'll give a report. Unless you have nothing to say for this meeting, Christy.
Our last meeting was really good. We were able to have Dave Church, our city lawyer, attend and give us, we need to always do like a yearly update on training, et cetera. And we have some new commissioners, so it was good to get some training and ask him lots of questions. We are also, I'm trying to think what we did. We're also going through codes for our signs, and we'll be getting that to you hopefully the next, next couple of months. Although I did see that there was an article today in the Daily Herald about Provo going through their sign codes again and actually backtracking on some of the decisions they've made. So I thought it might be interesting for you guys to go kind of see what Provo's been doing with their signs. It might, just to see what their situation is, but we will provide you with what you asked us for. Other than that, I'm trying to think, what else did we do, Morgan, besides the sign codes?
There's a sign standard waiver.
Oh, we did the sign standard waiver for the Utah Valley Home Builders building. And we felt that was actually a really good. They asked to have signs for their 3 main tenants on their building, which we actually don't allow to have the 3, just the 1. So we allowed them to have 3 small signs on top, which will help those businesses attract actually just their location, which makes sense. So
And the Public Works building. We had the update on the Public Works building. That was the other one.
Yes, the update on the Public Works building. Yeah, so we're working with them to hopefully that they will come through the correct process and make sure that they follow all of our codes and our landscaping. And we're excited that they are getting that facility on the north side of the city. You can snicker all you want. Any other questions for Planning Commission?
So in light of that article, I thought of that last night as I was reading it. Do we have anything about electronic signs?
We do. So we require them to come in and petition for a conditional use permit for that type of sign. We have one in the city already. It's at the Utah Valley Home Builders
Right.
has a sign like that. There was some initial pushback when we were doing those codes as we discussed that as a commission. Some commissioners were adamantly opposed to having that type of sign. Some were not. And in the end, we decided to make it a conditional use permit and allow companies and businesses to come in and argue as to why they may or may not need them. And so that's kind of where we've fallen with that. So that's where we are with our current codes.
Yeah, this experience should be instructional.
Yeah. So I think it'd be really smart for us to pay attention to see what, as Provo kind of digs deep into finding, the interesting thing that they're finding is there is no data actually to support. It's mostly just opinion based where people are like, we don't like the signs, we think they're distracting. So it's hard to base decisions off of what people think and feel. So it would be nice to watch what their community kind of comes to before maybe we make a drastic change in our codes. But as we are considering changes to our sign codes, it might be a good time to possibly review that as well, if that's something that you would like.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions for Christy? Okay. I wanted to briefly mention, I forgot about this meeting, but the Board of Education met, I believe, Tuesday night to make a decision on the bond. They ended up continuing the meeting with some new news that they found. So while they did approve the schools, they did not confirm that it will be in Vineyard. However, our representative is pushing for the elementary school to be built here. So we have the land and we've had a school that's been kind of saturated with students and they don't have the resources they need right now. But we are looking to the Board of Education to make that decision. So if you'd like to write in to our representatives and to the rest of the school board, they will be reconvening in 2 weeks. Okay, we will go ahead and, Kelly, our deputy recorder, did you have an announcement as well?
I've got 4 items just to do with the election on November 5th. So first of all, we're having a Meet the Candidates night on Monday, September 30th. It's going to be at 6:30 p.m. at Freedom Preparatory Academy. And so there will be more information about that on our website as well as a Facebook page. Also, the RAP tax proposition, the Recreation, Arts, and Parks proposition, will also be on the ballot. And City Council is going to hear public comments about the RAP tax proposal at the October 9th City Council meeting at 6 p.m. So if you want to comment on that, be sure to come. And then because Vineyard is participating in the ranked choice voting, the state is having a pilot program this year for ranked choice voting. We are going to be holding a ranked choice voting demonstration, and all Vineyard residents are invited on Tuesday, October 15th, here in the City Council chambers from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And the final thing is just we remind all residents to check your voter registration, make sure that it's current. Go to vote.utah.gov to do that.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to our consent items. If there's any discussion that needs to be made, please make it in your motion to pull it off of the consent agenda. Otherwise, can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes as noted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll move on to mayor appointments. The youth council have held their elections, and I'm going to have Jim Welsh, their advisor, come up and share the process that they went through, and then I will appoint the youth council members that were nominated and voted.
Thank you, Mayor Fulmer. We've also been working with Tice Flake, who's been assigned as the council, as the Vineyard City Council member to the Youth Council, and then also 2 months ago, Mayor Fulmer appointed Jessica Welch to also be an assistant or another Vineyard City Youth Council advisor. So each year in July, the last week of July, the Vineyard City Youth Council gathers together and they nominate individuals to take 7 positions for the Executive Youth Council each year. Those nominations are then forwarded to the mayor, and the mayor approves and appoints these youth city council members to those positions. So those are mayor, city manager, recorder, and then there are there are 4 committee chairs, one for beautification, service, meetings and election, and social activities. So those 7 positions were nominated by their peers, and this year I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 6, so I guess we're missing Joey. So we have 6 of the 7 here to be sworn in today for their positions. So did you want me to do anything else?
No, that is great. I just kind of wanted people to understand the process that they go through and the time that these young people have taken to come together and really get to know the civic process, and it's just a really cool thing that you guys are taking part in. I am actually going to say your names and then have you, Kelly, you're going to swear them in. So I'm going to have you say your names, and I'm going to have you stand right in front of here and face that way because we are recording it. So we'd like to see your faces on our video. So our youth council mayor is Will Welsh. Come on up, stand right in front of Councilmember Riley, and face the camera.
It's right up there.
Activities chair, Joey Merrill, if he's here tonight.
Oh, Joey.
Are we missing him tonight? We miss you. Okay. We'll have to swear him in at a later time. Holly Huntington. Forgive me if I said that wrong. She is our service chair. Janelle Dadson. Our beautification chair. Meetings and election chair, Zoe Lee. Our city manager is Holland Welch. And our recorder is Macy Lee. Okay, go ahead, Kelly.
So raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, having been appointed to the office of, and state what your title is, of the Vineyard Youth Council Executive Committee. Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Utah. And that I will discharge the duties. Of my office with fidelity.
Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause. What a beautiful promise.
Come with me and we will sign, seal their certificates.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming. We'll move on to our business items, discussion and action, water system master plan, and our city manager, Jake McCarg, will introduce this topic.
So as you guys know, we've been working through the process on the water tank. We've had a lot of discussions about where to put the water tank, where it makes sense in the system, what it's going to do to our system, how it will fit with everything. And one of the concerns that we've had is how it will impact pressure. And so with that and the town center plans, we have felt at a staff level that it's time to do a water system master plan. So that's the proposal that you have before you. We worked on a contract with Hanson Allen Luce Engineering, who's doing the storage tank design And so this would just be a continuation of that current contract. So the cost for this is just under $46,000. We plan on splitting this up the way that we have the water tank. So some of it will come from the water funds, some of it will come from RDA capital projects funds.
Excellent. Are there any questions from the council?
I did have one question. I know this is the drinking water, but is this also our hydrant system? We're talking about everything, right? So I didn't note as I went through the report, I didn't notice anywhere where we speculated on the PSI we're going to be seeing from our hydrants. This is the fireman in me curious to know, because you mentioned concerns over pressure. What are we speculating or anticipating that to be?
So the tank elevation will only allow us to go about 65 psi, which in some areas of the city is drastically reduced. And so that's
Lower than 65, you mean?
No, I'm sorry. It's
So is this
drastically
the
reduced from
lowest
what we
65?
currently have. Yes.
Okay.
So
That's fine.
purpose of this study is to help us understand what we need to do to maintain a good fire protection for the city.
Yeah, no, I mean, okay, wonderful.
Great question. Any other comments? No? Okay, if not, can I entertain a motion?
Yeah, we're trying to find it. We're trying to get there and make the motion for you.
Okay, okay, got it. All right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the water system master plan.
Proposal, yep. And a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, 65 PSI, that's fine. I mean, that's why all the rigs are designed to, we adjust according to what we get. So that's good. Granted, I would have loved more, but 65